not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, and it is in pardoning that we are pardoned. We pray, Lord, that all that we do and say in our work together tonight would reflect this spirit, respecting the faiths of all who have gathered here this evening. We bring this prayer before you with sincere faith, abiding hope, and for each other, brotherly love. Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Haran. We appreciate that very much. If anyone wants to speak to items not on the agenda, please come up and fill out a card. You go over at the clerk's, and then when you come back up to speak at that time, please hand your card in. We'd appreciate that. Good evening. I'm Brian Onks. To my far right is City Manager Jennifer Poirier.
Good evening.
Next to her is Councilmember. I keep wanting to say commission because it was commission back when I was originally here. Councilmember Kathleen Beckman. Next to her is our Vice Mayor Mark Bunker. Good evening. Next to me on my left is Councilmember Lena Teixeira.
Good evening.
Next to her is Councilmember David Albritton.
Good evening.
And next to him is our city attorney, a.k.a. Lefty, David Margolis.
Good evening.
Lefty.
Oh, that's going to stick.
I am, in fact, lefty. That's the best part.
All right, we're going to start tonight with some special recognitions and proclamations. 20-year employees. We'd like to have Kayla Grant from the library please come forward.
She's going to read. I read the write-up.
Oh, okay.
I will read it
Sorry,
in just a second.
You
Go
can
ahead.
shake hands and then we'll go reverse because the mayor doesn't know what he's doing. Congratulations.
Got your hands full now. What are you going to do? Give me a hand, fist bump?
Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll do the write-up.
Now do your write-up, yes. Kayla Grant started her career at the Clearwater Public Library System on May 19th, 2003 as a library assistant in the youth department. She was an instant good fit in youth, serving the public desk and assisting in successful youth and teen programs. As she continued to excel in the youth department, she decided to pursue her master's degree in library and information science at the University of South Florida. After graduating, she became a librarian and managed the main library circulation department, making sure we continue to give great customer service and providing materials and information for our patrons. During this time, she became committee chair of the wildly successful Clearwater Library Comic-Con, which is still going strong, and continues every year to bring in many families for education and entertainment. From the circulation department, Kayla transferred to the Makerspace team, hosting and creating many great arts and craft programs for our public. She's a recent graduate of the Sunshine State Library Leadership Institute. Kayla has recently been promoted to Adult Services and Outreach Supervisor, where her team provides fantastic programs here in the library and out in the city. Her latest success in the library's Heritage Studio that offers free digitizing of photos and videos for patrons. She has also helped build a great local partnership with the ultimate goal of providing wonderful programs for the public. Kayla has done a tremendous job with every opportunity she's earned, and we continue to look forward to more of her great ideas, programs, and energy. Thank you.
Okay, also a 20-year employee, we have Laura Sullivan from the library. Please come forward, Laura. Maureen, sorry, Laura.
Just we'll read this first.
Let me read your write-up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did it backwards last time. It was my fault.
Lori Sullivan has been a dedicated and valued library assistant at the main library circulation department for 20 years, starting her career on May 19th of 2003. For 2 decades, she has worked the front lines of our main library circulation desk. She greets patrons entering the library with a smile and a kind word. Lori has been with us for major events, the grand opening of the new downtown library, automated service upgrades, workflow changes, and participating in various library and city events and celebrations. She assists our patrons in checking out their items and registering new patrons with library cards. Her creative book displays help patrons decide what they should read next. Through the years, her efforts have been instrumental in serving the Clearwater Downtown Library and the greater community we serve. Loyal and dedicated employees like her are the foundation of the success of our city. Together, we applaud her accomplishment as we recognize her length of service to the bright and beautiful Clearwater. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Lori.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Take that too. Watch out.
Going down. How you doing? Feeling better?
Congratulations to both Kayla and Laurie for their 20 years. Now we have the Employee of the Month for May of 2023. Also from the library is Claudia Gonzalez. Please come forward.
Claudia Gonzalez is the Hispanic Outreach Coordinator at the Clearwater East Community Library. Her work and dedication to our Spanish-speaking community is essential to the entire branch and library system. Claudia is constantly working to form new partnerships to benefit our community. Starting in August, Claudia began a partnership with Pinellas County Schools and the Pinellas Education Foundation in an effort to educate the community on scholarship opportunities. Recently, it was announced that 16 students from the East Library were awarded a scholarship from this program. This scholarship will provide these students with 2 years of free tuition to any Florida university. On March 22nd, Claudia attended an award ceremony for these students at Countryside High School. In addition to her work with Pinellas County Schools and the Pinellas Education Foundation, Claudia also works with the Literacy Council of Upper Pinellas to provide programs such as beginning and intermediate English conversion classes and citizenship tutoring. As a result of this partnership, 4 library patrons became U.S. citizens so far this year. Claudia's work within the community and commitment to the library not only benefits the public library system, but also a life-changing impact on our citizens. Thank you, Claudia, for all you do for the city of Clearwater and its citizens. You are truly a shining example of what bright and beautiful Clearwater is all about.
Thank you. Big impact.
Congratulations. Great work. Congratulations again to Claudia. All right, now we have the team of the quarter for May and June of 2023. Please, I would like to have the Orientation Impact Team. Please come forward.
Recently, a typical new employee orientation was taking place at the MSB. During a break in that session, a new hire employee who was attending orientation fell in the break room and needed serious medical attention. A group of new hires and current city staff from various departments jumped into action in what was witnessed as being truly compelling in terms of the first non-responders rising to a very uncommon and stressful event. Their collective actions were calm, rapid, caring, and likely life-saving. Even after the incident, employees were reaching out to this young man's family to see how they could help, as he had just moved here and did not have any family here. Their actions were extraordinary and courageous, and above all, compassionate for one another. Thank you for coming together as a team and making an impact on someone's life.
Thank you, Marilyn Monroe. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great work, thank you.
Oh.
Good job. Thank you. Good job. Really?
Thank you. Like your shirt. I got a bunch of them. Thank you. Very good.
Good job. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. There's none. Okay, now we have a presentation from the Florida League of Mayors essay contest winner. We'd like to call Scott Dudley, the Florida League of Mayors Executive Director, to the podium. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. It's good to see you all on behalf of the League of Cities and the League of Mayors. Thank you for your public service. We greatly appreciate everything that you do. You're where the rubber meets the road in terms of the citizens out here. I love coming to see city halls and the citizens coming, and just it's exciting. I'm kind of a nerd like that, but I do love it. It's really cool to see. So one of the cool things I get to do as executive director of the League of Mayors is every year we have a essay contest. If I were mayor, if I were elected mayor is the name of the contest. And we give a prize to the first, second, and third place winners. And this year we received about 100 submissions. 800 submissions, sorry about that, 800 submissions for the contest. And we had folks sit down and read them and kind of just cull through them all. And happy to report to you that one of your students in your community here, Susanna Still, I think it is, with the Gulf Coast Classical Academy, 7th grade, is the third place winner of the If I Were Mayor. The object is to help students understand not only what a mayor does, but also get better in touch with their own community, kind of get a sense of what the needs are, what the wants are, to also understand what home rule is, local decision making, local voices making, local choices, and on all three of those components, Susanna was very successful in including those in her essay, and I would like to present her with a resolution and a gift certificate for $100, and so Susanna and her family can come up. Be happy to present this to you. Congratulations, and invest this. I won't give you investment advice, but congratulations, you did a great job of it, and the mayor will be joining us. We'll get a quick picture here.
So you buying yourself breakfast tomorrow?
You know what it's all about.
We need some pointers. Why didn't we?
I know, I wish you would.
Congratulations again, third out of 800. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive. And thank you, Mr. Dudley, for coming out this evening. We appreciate that very much. Okay, now time for some proclamations. We are going to start with National Safe Boating Proclamation. And if I could have, sorry if I butcher your name, Stephen Bielowski, Flotilla Commander of Clearwater, Mike Cadis, Kathy Casey, Robert Taylor, Arlene Merciel, and Daniel Lippman, please come forward. Whereas May 20 through 26 is National Safe Boating Week, and whereas boating is one of the largest recreational activities for residents of this community, and whereas the protection of life, limb, boats, and marine property are the legal and moral responsibilities of every boater, and whereas the City of Clearwater encourages all boaters, boating organizations to consider this an occasion to renew their determination to use courtesy and common sense afloat at all times, and whereas to this end, all boaters are asked to continue the spirit of Safe Boating Week throughout the entire year. Now therefore, I, Brian Uggs Sr., Mayor of the City of Clearwater, Florida, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim May 20 through 26, 2023 to be National Safe Boating Week in the City of Clearwater.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing the great work you do.
Absolutely.
Sir, that was painful. It is. Thank you. Thank you. Sir, thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Keep up the great work. We appreciate it. Okay, now we have National Homeownership Month, and we'll call Denise Sanderson, Economic Development Housing Director, and Terry Malcolm Smith, Senior Housing Coordinator, in Dania Perez, Housing Coordinator, up.
And we have a special guest for this as well.
Okay.
Fourth joining our crew.
Whereas the importance of home ownership in American society impacts neighborhood stability and the nation's economic health, and whereas the City of Clearwater is committed to preserve and increase the level of home ownership in the city and participates in HUD's Home Investment Partnership and Community Development Grant Block programs to support initiatives such as home ownership, counseling, purchase assistance, new construction, rehabilitation of its existing housing stock, and affordable, lower-cost housing. And whereas the City of Clearwater also commends the efforts of our community's private sectors, its developers, lenders, realtors, and nonprofit organizations, all of whom are committed to keep families in their homes and to promoting the American dream to new homeowners in the City of Clearwater. And whereas the Economic Development and Housing Department of the City of Clearwater and its community partners are participating in the free 32nd Annual Home Ownership for People Everywhere, acronym HOPE, Expo on June 10, 2023 to encourage citizens to meet and speak to housing counselors, lenders, real estate agents, and community resource representatives regarding home ownership. Now, therefore, I, Brian Unk Sr., Mayor of the City of Clearwater, Florida, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2023 to be National Homeownership Month in Clearwater.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to introduce my team. So behind me here, I have Terry Malcolm-Smith. She's been with us forever. I'm sure she's eligible for retirement, but she's never going to do that to us. Next to her is Dania Perez. She's relatively new to our department, but she's really terrific and has been in the industry for quite some time. And Fran Feeney with Suncoast Housing Connections, one of our many valuable partners in this space, providing homeowner education, foreclosure prevention, and counseling services to our would-be buyers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Good to see you again.
Thank you, Dania.
Thank you.
See you again. There you are.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, now it's time for EMS Week Proclamation. I'd like to call Anthony Tedesco, Division Chief of EMS, to come forward, please. Whereas the 2023 EMS Week theme, which is particularly meaningful now, is where emergency care begins, serves to remind people that every day emergency medical teams are faced with so many new challenges in their lives, and yet they still rise above them all and continue to respond, support, and care for the needs of our communities. And whereas rapid access to quality emergency medical care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical service teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas the emergency medical services system consists of emergency physicians, emergency nurses, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, educators, administrators, and others. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. Now, therefore, I, Brian Unk Sr., Mayor of the City of Clearwater, Florida, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim May 21st to the 27th, 2023, to be Emergency Medical Services Week in Clearwater.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, and then we have ICMA, FCCMA Council Manager YOS presentation. Please come forward, Kimberly Nicholls. Whereas the City of Clearwater is celebrating the 108th birthday of the incorporation as a city and the county seat of Pinellas County. And we're, wrong one?
That's the Clearwater, yeah.
She's presenting us, I believe.
Yes.
Okay,
Even better.
even better. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Inks, City Council members, City managers, staff, and residents of the beautiful City of Clearwater. My name is Kimberly Nicholls, and I'm the Assistant HR Director for the City of Largo and a member of the Florida City and County Management Association, otherwise known as FCCMA. FCCMA is a professional organization of over 626 practicing public administrators from throughout Florida local government. The association was chartered in 1946 as a nonprofit corporation to elevate professionalism among the state's 478 cities and counties to promote the council-manager form of government as the form that advances the highest ethical and professional standards. Our Professional Management Matters Committee is charged with recognizing city milestones and accomplishments throughout the state of Florida. On behalf of FCCMA, we are privileged to present the City of Clearwater with a certificate celebrating your 100th year as Council Manager form of government as recognized by the International City County Management Association. On behalf of the officers, Board of Directors, and membership of FCCMA, we offer you sincere congratulations on this milestone achievement. The Commissioner-Manager form of city and county government was created to help separation administration from direct political influence and establish merit-based practices within local government. In Florida, nearly 70% of all 411 cities, towns, and villages operate under the Commission-Manager form of government, and of the 67 counties in the state, all but 2 are professionally managed. The City of Clearwater is recognized as a champion of the council-manager form of government for the last 100 years. You have a council that works together in a professional manner to make decisions and establish policies that are in the best interest of your citizens, as evident by your mission: to provide cost-effective municipal services, facilitate development of the economy, and to support a high quality of life and experience. The City of Clearwater is fortunate to have ICMA and FCCMA members leading your city in City Manager Poirier, Assistant City Manager Delk, soon-to-be ACM Chief Slaughter, and the city's Chief Innovation Officer Maxwell, who is also a past president of FCCMA. Together, they have approximately 104 years of local government experience. Jen, Mike, Chief Slaughter, and Micah are all respected by professionals around the county, state, and country as individuals who maintain the highest integrity and ethics and are always willing to promote their community while helping those cities that may need their assistance. On behalf of FCCMA and all of the council manager communities within our county and the state of Florida, we congratulate the City of Clearwater on this milestone achievement of being council manager community for the past 100 years. At this time, I'd like to present Mayor Angson, City Manager Poirier, with the certificate of recognition. And if I could get a picture with the 2 of you, and perhaps Micah, if he's still here. As proof I was here.
And Chief Slaughter.
Chief here? Yeah. Could I ask you to take a picture? Sure. I should have filmed that whole thing. Congratulations.
Thank you very much for that. We appreciate it. Okay, now we have another presentation. If we would have, could have Micki Thompson, the President and CEO of 211 Tampa Bay Cares, please come forward. Hello.
Good evening. Thank you so much for inviting me and for your patience as I was ill and we had to reschedule. So thank you so much for that. I know there's a lot of information in the packet and in the agenda that was there, and hopefully we'll be able to move through it pretty quickly. I also want to let you know, I know there's a lot of slides with that, but thank you. So there we are. Thank you so much. So a little bit about 211 Tampa Bay Cares. If you have not heard of our organization before, we are a nonprofit organization. We have about 85 employees. Originally when I was coming here, we were about to move, so we have moved. We are in the ICOT Center area, just off Almerton Road, and just settling into that new location. Our organization, we are accredited by several national bodies. the Alliance of Information Referral Services, and the American Association of Suicidology. We'll talk a little bit about 211-988. We are part of both national networks for those as well as statewide networks to provide that service locally here. And it used to be, we've been here about over 50 years. The helpline was here 50 years ago as a program and grew over those years, and it's now 211 today, the helpline. So just to give a little bit. So we're supported by a wide range of organizations, and we're so grateful for each of them. And I'm going to highlight a few of them, like Duke Energy, in a short bit. So a lot of people know us. We have 211 and 988, two national 3-digit numbers that we do answer for us, but we do a lot of other things as well. So I'm going to just run through those really quickly, and then we'll come back to 211 988. So a lot of people do not know, we also answer the sexual assault hotline here in Pinellas County. We partner with Suncoast Center. We also run the volunteer income tax assistance helpline that also just ended here in April. We handled over 7,000 calls for helping people get appointments for tax assistance. Also, we provide a hotline for the supportive services for veteran families that call us, and then we also dispatch, we work together for sexual assault exams and work with local police departments as well as Suncoast Center to make sure we get volunteers and the right people out for those exams. We're also in the county's emergency disaster response plan. We are the center hub for community information following community disasters. So after the county stands up the Citizen Information Center, and they've been up for a while, we're standing up our center to be able to help take over and help in the aftermath of any disaster. And like I said, we are included in the disaster plan. We also have some specialty care coordinator positions at our organization specialty area. So we have some veteran peer support. So we have several veterans who are peer support. So if we get a call from a veteran on 211 and they may need a little bit more follow-up and some coaching, kind of follow-up calls, we have veterans who are talking with other veterans who do that. We also have just started with first responder peer support as well. We have some on staff, some former first responders who can also do the same thing for our first responders community, particularly around mental wellness for themselves as well as for their families. I do want to do a special shout out to, who was here, Chief Slaughter and the Clearwater Police Department for their leadership. They do serve. We set up a Suncoast Alliance First Responder Council, and the Clearwater Police Department is active in that, and our leaders. In fact, they're the very first ones to turn back their memorandum of understanding to partner with us on this. We have Sunstar, the Sheriff's Office, and multiple other fire departments across the county. We also have a homeless helpline that helps. We work together with the Homeless Leadership Alliance to screen homeless families. We do not have enough shelter in this county for homeless families or beds, and so we screen folks to be able to, frankly, get them on a priority list in order to be able to, if a space comes up, they can go into that space next. So we serve that role with Homeless Leadership Alliance. We also have just started for family caregivers. 1 in 5 people is a family caregiver, unpaid caregiver, and so we have our hiring right now caregivers themselves who can do that same peer support with other caregivers who are calling into our service. We've also recently created, which is in your packet, if anyone knows of places where we can put them, we have a senior mental wellness and crisis response team that created a directory both in English and in Spanish of services. It's about 40 pages. It's also online. You can download it. And if you need more, I have the information there for one of our staff members. But we really want to get them out in the community. I think we've done about 28,000 already have gotten out in the community. So if you know places, we'd love to hear about those. One of the other big things you hear about our organization is we do provide financial assistance. It makes us unique of other 211s across the country. I would say we're one of the largest, not the largest, particularly for individuals without minor children for financial assistance. So when somebody calls in looking for rent and utilities, we do try and screen them for services to be able to see if they're eligible for those services. And so we're probably on pace. This was last year, 1.2 million. We probably will be at the 1.2 million range as well again this year. So we served last year about 500 individuals and family households. The county does, for the Adult Emergency Financial Assistance Program, and specifically for adults without minor children. We run that program They do, one of the biggest challenges you may, if you hear complaints about 2-in-1, to be candid, this is usually the program where it is, primarily because there are so many people calling in for that particular program, so the wait time for that particular queue for us can be an hour or longer that's calling in for that line, because there's so many, and I'm going to talk a little bit about needs in a short bit. People do have to be sustainable. The county requires documentation be collected for that program, bank statements, other plethora of documentation, and they have to prove sustainability, that they have income. So if they are helped with a bill for their rent, that they'll be able to afford it. It's just kind of a one-time assistance for folks. So usually that's where for the Adult Emergency Financial Assistance Program. And in your packet, I do have that information more about that. We also work together with United Way Suncoast for their last resort fund with Publix. We've also done a RISE eviction fund with them to help prevent eviction, work with attorneys to help pay for eviction, or pay for resolve any rental issues if that was it, why they were being evicted, to help keep them in their home. We also created our own Hope Fund at our organization with donations to our organization, and 100% of those donations go towards helping people pay rent and utilities. Big recognition of Duke Energy this year donated $160,000 to that fund to be able to help get that out in the community. We have probably about $50,000 of that left, but I just wanted to, again, really thank Duke Energy for their support on that fund, just very much needed. We do, like I said, community law program. We partner with them on evictions, and then we're also a fiscal administrator for the county as well as St. Vincent de Paul. To do rapid rehousing financial assistance. So navigators out in the community, caseworkers, are working with families in the community, and so they work on gathering all the documentation, and then we help cut checks very quickly. The county loves that we can cut a check in less than 24 hours once we have all the documentation together, whereas when it was going through the county, it was a little bit longer than that point in time, so we can address it quickly so they don't get evicted. All right, 2-in-1. So in general for 2-in-1, if you have not heard of it before, is a free line that you can call to help people navigate any health and human service information. It's open 24 hours a day and open to anyone, whether it's a personal crisis they're having, trouble with paying their rent, utilities, maybe they need a tutor for their child, or having to decide what will I do with my parents? They may need to be in a nursing home. How do I go about even starting that? So really any health and human service issue, you can call us. So a little bit about us again. We cover 2 counties for 2-in-1 that ring into us directly. So if you're standing in Pinellas or Hernando, you do ring into us. It's free, it's confidential, 24/7. We handle approximately 3,000 calls a month, as well as 1,000 texts a month from those here in Pinellas County. You can, like I said, dial. It's just the 3 digits. I do get asked, what's the phone number for 2-in-1? It is just 3 digits, 2-in-1 on your phone. You can text as well. This is a national text number that you can text to, 898-2-in-1. If you put your zip code in that message area, you'll ring into us if you're in this area. But it's national. 2-in-1 is also national. It's accessible to over 98% of the U.S. population. As well, 99% of the U.S. population, multiple languages. I know we have a lot of snowbirds as well. The same service is in your community if you're from another area or you're going back home, so you can always reach out to 2-in-1. And we list, at our organization, we list about 3,000 plus programs and services in our database that are available for folks who are needing help with many issues. So here's a little quick map of that. So this last year in July, the FCC, we launched 988 nationally. It used to be the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. You may remember it if there's a high-profile suicide in the community, they flash that 800 number across the screen to call. We have answered that for over 20 years here in our community, and it's now, easy to remember number as 988. So they're going to start doing some more national and state promotion a little bit later. They delayed, it was going to be spring of 2023, probably into the summer that they're going to be doing. You'll see a lot more promotion of 988 on a national level. So for 988, has really expanded our organization. We cover 10 counties for 988. We also were selected as a national text and online chat backup center for the nation. We handle approximately 1,600 calls from those 10 counties a month and about 2,880 texts a month on that line. So again, from our area, it's quite busy without promotion. Free, confidential, it is anonymous. So if somebody's needing help, if you go online, you don't have to or you call us, you don't have to tell us your name or where you're from. You can just, and on the online chat, it does ask you some questions, but you could put any name in there. So you can be anonymous. You can dial, it's just like 201-988. You can also text 988, which is great. You can do both. It's easy to remember rather than the 211 line. Online chat's available at 988lifeline.org. And 100% of the U.S. population has access. So no matter where you live, again, back to if you're, here, a short-time resident, going back and forth, you also have 988 in your area. So I do encourage people to go to 988lifeline.org because there's so much information that can be helpful. So if you or a family member or a friend is really struggling, we really want you to help us get the word out to call 988 and that it's available for people. This is what that website looks like, and you can see in the upper right-hand corner, that's where I point out the chat. It's got like 988 in a little blue box. That's where the chat is for that. So a lot of people ask me, well, which number do I call for what? So truly, I try and tell people 211 is for if you're trying to connect with local community resources. It's more of an information referral. It's also a crisis line. All the folks are, trained for crisis intervention as well, but we really want to move just the information referral to 201 and all the crisis calls over to 988. 988 gets answered very quickly. If we aren't able to answer it within a minute, it rolls to another center to be able to answer. So there's lots of backups for 988. So I really encourage folks, if they're in crisis or know somebody, to call 988 or text 988. Also, all of our resources, we did listen loud and clear. A lot of people struggled. We have an online database that people could search for services on it. But it was when you are in a crisis and trying to find information, it may be overwhelming for you. So we listened to everyone and said they just wanted a link on the website. So we created these bubbles on our website that if you just click on them, it links to all the nonprofits, usually most of the larger ones under each one of those bubbles. So I want to point that out. So if you don't want to call, you just want to look at some resources, you can certainly go to our website as well and find that. Last but not least, in your folder that I gave you on the right-hand side, you'll see this graphic. We actually, all of our calls we have on this dashboard, it is live up to yesterday of what is happening here in our community. So I pulled the Clearwater zip codes this afternoon, and here's the most up-to-date as of today, back 365 days of the volume of calls that are coming in. So that's by percentage up there. I did this one in your packet by numbers. So I don't know if you can see. Can we see this one? Is it this side or this side? No. Which one?
Side.
This side?
Yeah.
Pick the side. All right, I'll pick the side. How about that one? Then everybody can see it there. All right. So thank you so much for that. So this is, you can see from May of last year to May of this year, we've received over 7,731 calls from these zip codes in Clearwater for housing and shelter. And if you when you click on housing and shelter, you can see on the right side the green bars really divide out of housing and shelter how many, what were they calling about in those. So for shelters, over 2,000 calls from Clearwater zip codes for shelter. Rent assistance, 3,000 folks were calling needing assistance with emergency rental, financial assistance. And then others just looking for a low-cost affordable housing were about 2,000. You see little kind of bubble people next to each of the main topic areas. If you click on that, I can tell you more detailed information, how many were veterans, how many are males, females, what is the age of those folks that are in there. We can also expand this dashboard in the future, so if you have any feedback on that, certainly let us know. But as you go down on the left, each one of those categories breaks out into that green area on the side. I did want to talk certainly about shelter. It has the most calls that are coming in for that. Other. Everyone always asks me about other. It's unique to us because of the financial assistance program we have. People call back to check the status of their case. And we didn't want to skew the really true how many people needed housing by tagging it housing every single time. So we tagged it as other. So we just let people know that. So over the last, the top needs, we had about 21,000 needs, certainly came in from the city of Clearwater. So I wanted to let people know about that as well. Does anybody have any questions? I know I flew. I promised I would be quick. That's what they said. Any questions for anyone, or?
Questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Micki, for being here. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you being part of the COC
Thank you.
and coming. So clearly we have an issue with people in Clearwater who are struggling with housing. And so they're calling you for shelters, low-cost housing, and rental assistance. What can you do for them, for those three most frequent calls?
So for shelter, and again, 211 can only do refer people and connect people with services if they're available out in the community. If they aren't available. So for example, for single adults, primarily really one place that we can refer to that's accepting people at all time is Safe Harbor. That is it. We do have other shelters, but their access hours or intake hours are very, very limited based on their staffing capacity. Certainly they're important to our continuum of services, but just the matter of fact of the volume that we get, Safe Harbor is the place for that. If there are families with minor children who are homeless, who call us, maybe they're living in their car, there are very limited, but there is really no place at this time. I mentioned we did screening with the Homeless Leadership Alliance to prioritize, and there's already, last meeting I was in, there were 140 folks that had already been put on the list waiting for a shelter placement for a family with minor children for a place to go. So our county, we have a challenge countywide, certainly with that. So what we do is screen them, prioritize them to at least give them a chance to get pulled off that list for housing. Without that prioritization and getting them screened, they would not even have a chance of getting even picked up for rapid rehousing or some of the other programs. So really that's for the shelter front. Low-cost housing, we do our best of working with multiple websites for rentals to kind of help direct people and share with them those sites. But again, we have limited in low-cost housing. And then last but not least, rental assistance is very seasonal. Right now, we're going into the biggest time of the year. At our lines, this is when it starts to skyrocket, the number of calls coming in for rent and utilities over the summer through when school starts again. And funding for financial assistance programs, many of it, if it's funded by the state, it's already gone. It's already exhausted. So truly the only program left for adults without minor children is at our organization. There may be some small pockets. For families with minor children, they would call PEMS. PEMS has screens families with minor children for that. But again, families do have to be sustainable, which means they would have to have ongoing income right now. So if they aren't working and not having a sustainable income, and sustainable income means they can also pay for the housing that they're in. So if they're working maybe a minimum wage job and their rent is higher, they aren't going to qualify and get assistance because they are not sustainable in that housing. So it is we're proud to partner and be a part of the continuum of care with the Homeless Leadership Alliance, but it is a very large issue for all of us across the country and in our community as well.
So sustainable means they have to be you can provide funding to get them over some kind of a hump or crisis. The car
Correct.
broke down, there was a medical something.
Correct.
But if rent goes up $300 a month and their income does not cover it, they're not sustainable and
Correct.
you can't.
Based on the funders that fund that program, correct.
Okay. Where do you feel is the greatest need with 211? Like, are you guys fully staffed? what do you need?
So, obviously, always for us is staffing, the number of folks on a phone. If you run a, contact center of any, usually it's the number of people you have in the seats to be able to answer those. What we are currently looking at, not just to keep adding people onto the phones, or what are some technology ways that we can, again, expanding our website, some of the ways. We have found text and online chat. Our 988 side of the house, we've been able to see a lot of difference between calls and online chat and texting. You can handle multiple texts at a time. Some online chats you can do multiple at a time. And so we are looking to expand. I have 2 people for text and chat, and that's one of the areas that we're looking to expand, of having some more text and online chat folks for on the 2-in-1 side of the house.
Okay. What demographic are you all most concerned about or have seen a significant change in?
I would say we've started to focus on seniors. Those, who are over 60 years old. We just had a presentation this morning from one of our staff with our board meeting. We're obviously we're coming on hurricane season and disasters, and our seniors, caregivers who are caring for folks with dementia, Alzheimer's, really are challenged with getting information and being able to manage in a disaster situation. The caregiving, I think, you don't know caregiving's a big responsibility until it kind of hits in your family. And so, for example, I'll just speak to myself. My parents are 85, 87, had a medical issue, and it is quite the task of taking care of 2 85 and 87-year-olds and being a caregiver. And so I don't think there's enough for unpaid caregivers in our community, and so that's an area we're also focusing on. How can we get them more information of resources in the community? How can we provide them support for stress, mental health for them as well? In fact, those over 85 are at the greatest risk for suicide. The recent number came out from 98 and on a national level. So we had that presentation this morning. So it's really, I think, focusing on our seniors is really important.
So you're facing hiring and retention challenges?
Actually, we've been working very hard for many, many years. And so right now, of our 85, I probably have about 8 open positions. We're doing fairly well, but that was a conscious decision of working really hard to keep pace with our wages. We also have the ability to do remote work for the vast majority of our positions. And so, folks, we're attracting a lot of people.
And then I think the document, when I looked online, I don't have this data from yesterday or whenever for the last 3 months, but it seems that 3 out of the top 10 zip codes that call
Yes.
211, 3 or 4 of them are from Clearwater?
Yes, 3 are from Clearwater.
Okay.
Yes, and that's on the back of this chart, to let you know. I printed out. And it's really in comparison to other counties and the percentage of the need versus the population in that specific zip code. So, for example, number 1 that ranks is a Bay Pines zip code, because we're getting a lot of calls from there, and there's not a lot of population there. So that's why they're number 1, but 3 of the top 10 here in our area are from Clearwater.
And where do you get your funding from?
So funding from multiple folks on a national level, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services. We get some funding from United Way Worldwide for some of our programs, AARP, locally, county, we get state funding, Department of Children and Families funding.
Do individual municipalities contribute?
We have some individual, yes, some cities do contribute to our organization as well. We've had Oldsmar, Safety Harbor. I was just at Safety Harbor. City of St. Pete has been in the past as well.
And then just to be clear, when we talk about shelters for individuals that can take them 24 hours, Safe Harbor is really not categorized as a shelter, right? It's jail diversion.
Correct.
And their case management ratios need a little improvement and stuff.
Yes. I know the Homeless Leadership Alliance and Continuum of Care, that's been a focus for Safe Harbor to increase the services there. But that is really, aside from that, there is really not a shelter that is available, even though they're a jail diversion open to people 24/7.
All right. And if you had an extra, $500,000, where would you put it?
I would put it in adding more people onto the lines so that we don't have people waiting, particularly on the financial assistance lines up to an hour, 2 hours, especially when they're in crisis and they're going to lose their house. That's where I would put it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Thompson,
Thank you
for coming
so
out.
much for your time.
Appreciate
I
it.
appreciate it.
Thank you very
for the
much.
invitation.
Okay, now I'd like to call Javante Scott, the Clearwater citizen, forward for Clearwater Day Proclamation, which I started reading earlier, so I'll read it again. I got practice. The city of Clearwater is celebrating the 108th birthday of incorporation as a city and the county seat of Pinellas County. And whereas Clearwater Harbor was originally the home to the Tocobaga people, I think I said that somewhat correctly. In 1821, the state of Florida became part of the United States of America, and on April 2nd, 1841, Fort Harrison was established in Clearwater Harbor by the United States government. The area was selected for its healthfulness. The sick and wounded soldiers were brought to Clearwater to recuperate from wounds from the Seminole Wars. And whereas the development of Clearwater came as part of the Armed Occupation Act, giving 160 acres of land to everyone to come and live in Florida, bear arms, and cultivate the land. The first settler was James Stevenson. Whereas the area of Clearwater became a winter tourist destination in 1888 with the arrival of the Orange Belt Railroad. Later, Henry Plant bought and upgraded the railroad and built Bellevue in 1896, bringing visitors to the Clearwater area. And whereas in 1906, the area that was Clearwater Harbor became known as Clearwater, thought to come from the freshwater springs flowing from the bluff where the old City Hall property is located. On May 27, 1915, Clearwater was reincorporated as a city. Now therefore, I, Brian Unk, Sr., Mayor of the City of Clearwater, Florida, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim May 27, 2023 to be Clearwater Day, a day for all residents to unite in common unity to remember the day Clearwater was founded, honoring our history, and celebrating our diversity as a growing community.
Good evening to you, Mayor and Council. I'm supposed to thank John Holmquist, who is on the board of the Historical Society. She's standing in place of the Historical Society's president, Ms. Allison Dolan. So your prayers to her. She's recovering. Also, a special thank you to Ms. Call, who I spoke with earlier this year, and to Sam, who is the manager of our Neighborhood Services Department. The thought behind Clearwater Day doesn't take away from Neighborhoods Day. If you know, Neighborhoods Day is the day neighborhoods gather in their own area. Clearwater Day will be a day for all of us to come together just to celebrate all of Clearwater, our history, diversity, our talents, and even our economic area. If you remember, in 2015, we celebrated a centennial celebration, and we did a parade from Cleveland up Highland to Drew, and then down Drew Street into Coachman Park. And I figure we don't have to wait until we turn 200. We could do something like that often just to bring our city together. And so I would say to you, city manager, staff, council, and city residents, as you go about your Memorial Day festivities, don't forget to just pause and say happy birthday, Clearwater. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a good idea. Good job, Javante. Oh.
Right in the front.
Let's give them a round of applause.
Yes.
Okay, our next item, do we have an approval of the minutes from the May 4th, 2023 City Council meeting as submitted by the City Clerk?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Time for citizens to be heard regarding items not on the agenda. Please fill out a card and give it to the clerk. Keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
I'm Mr. Haluba.
Thank you, Mr. Albritton. Now, I have a quote that Tracy McManus published in the newspaper. As we all know, Tracy McManus would never print anything that wasn't absolute truth and without her personal interjection. I do find it interesting that corruption was mentioned in the invocation, and given that this is Homeownership Month, and the fact that, Ms. Beckman is quoted as saying we need to provide even more opportunities at lower cost for residents. There's several ways to do that. One of them is stop the practice of charging people through Clearwater utilities for services that are not delivered. This is a piece of one of my neighbors' water bills. Clearwater bills minimum 3,000 gallons of water. This little old lady used 0.7, but she was still charged for 3,000 gallons, which is $25.80. Natural gas, she didn't use much of that. Minimum charge, $17.30, with 3 other taxes attached to that nobody can explain. Non-fuel, utility, non-utility, and then a big one, reclaimed water. Zero use, $17.71 for no use, for something she don't use. But here's the best one, down here, this area, is a 10% water utility tax on water that was not delivered. How do you justify this? And if you don't pay it, they'll turn everything off. It's absolutely coercion. It's bad business. It's bad for the people of Clearwater. A lot of people are getting sick of it, Ms. Beckman. And if you sit there and want to say that you care about reducing costs in this city, do it right here. Start charging fair amounts for utilities, services that are delivered, and not these minimum charges.
Anyone else on items not on the agenda?
Hello.
Hello.
My name's Elizabeth. You might already know my name, but I'm getting tired of being treated like a crazy person here in the city. Every time I need to reach out to the police, they are not there. They don't file reports that I request. They are very aggressive in my face, yell and scream and interrupt me. And then they end up making me feel very sad, frustrated, and overwhelmed because what I'm asking them to do or my needs are not being met. Somebody attacks me or I was sexually assaulted here in Clearwater. They didn't care. All of them laughed at me, didn't put it in the report, didn't file charges against the person I asked them to. It's very upsetting and suffering a little bit of PTSD from this. And it's been happening to me since I moved back here 2 years ago in 2021. The police have been following me to the beach, trying to run me over in their police carts, their golf carts, just following me around, going to interviews and jobs, and just kind of hovering around me. I think this is qualified as harassment, whether you say I'm crazy or not. You can watch it happening for yourself. In the library, I was approached by this homeless lady, crazy on drugs, approached me 3 times on camera, although nobody chose to look at the camera, but she threatened to punch me in the face. Then she ran to security saying I did that to her. I was sitting with one of my friends and I had a witness. I got kicked out of this library here for 30 days. However, I did get permission to come back here for city council. I was going to go last session on the 4th, but I decided to wait till this session, just because I was told that I got removed when I got temporary trespassed. But anyway, I don't really feel like coming back to this library anymore. Living in Clearwater for me has been very stressful, especially because I feel like I'm being targeted by the police. And when my moped got smashed, I do believe bringing this up in a past city council meeting a couple of months ago, it was vandalized. Police didn't care. They were like really mean to me when I called them over the phone. When they came by, they were, I don't know if they were helpful or not. They were, I don't know, I guess passive aggressive. But I do believe the police are involved in some of the crimes that are going on. And maybe there needs to be someone that audits the police. They need to help everybody, and they need to focus on real crimes that are happening, not just helping certain people and not being biased towards other people. Thank you.
Anyone else on items not on the agenda?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Let me give you this. My name is Mohammed Abdul Rahim. I'm a resident of City Clearwater, has been ever since 1964. I've seen this city go through a lot of changes. And I do want to actually compliment our city. You very rare get a citizen like myself up here speaking at the dais before you to actually say that. You know, I appreciate, you know, what you do, the stress that you go through for your citizens with very low pay. I appreciate that. One of the things I did observe today, which I want to compliment you on, and that's the partnership that you formed with the dedication of Arts for Life. That was a very excellent partnership with the Bucks, J-Bell, and the city of Clearwater to actually bring about a revitalization of a center that has been, you know, dying on the vines for years. And I'm pretty sure that the residents there and the children, of course, is going to love it. But the reason I'm here is to also keep echoing. I'm here in behalf of the Clearwater Alliance for Housing. I'm a member of that group now, and we are constantly going to be in your face, excuse the expression, but it's to get you to be aware that, you know, coming into going your new budget year is to put more money towards housing. And one of the things we would like to see is for you to also do the same thing you've done with the recycling program, and that is put up a dashboard to see where you're at, to see the quantitative measurements that can be met. Those things help us as citizens recognize that our city is committed to housing and are committed to the affordability of housing. We know it's a national issue here, and we know that it's tough making those type of decisions when the city of Clearwater is not in the housing business. I mean, I came up in 1964 when there was public housing here. So you took a bulk of a lot of people into public housing that you don't have today. So it's time to replace that, and we can't replace it with the public housing needs. So we have to find alternative modes, alternative ways, thinking outside of the box, the rezoning structure, all of it, to actually get us where we need to go. And I think that you can do that. And I do. I have faith in you. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on items not on the agenda? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Wayne Perez, and I live in Clearwater, Florida. And I'm here today. I read in the paper Wednesday how the city is going to honor our veterans on Memorial Day. When I read Mayor Ranks was going to be the main speaker, I just want to come out here and say thank you. As a veteran, I can't tell you how important that is. And it's very honorable what this city does. Veterans are hurting more now than ever. With Afghanistan fresh in our minds, you hear these stories about 22 vets a day killing themselves. That's false. It's a lot harder. So that day is important, and I thank you, sir. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Carlos. I will not be the main speaker. I I will not be the keynote speaker, but I will be there speaking on behalf of the city, and I look forward to it. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Ernst.
Good evening.
Council members, Ms. Poirier, Mr. Margolis, staff. My name is Rudy Michael. Sometimes I forget to say that. 4 weeks ago, you had a substantive discussion of Gotham's Bluffs project led by Mr. Margolis. The word transparency was used several times referring to Gotham. But was Gotham's use of transparency about what it shares simply to strengthen their case to reduce their cost and increase your financial support, or something else? What about the project penetration study as to the number of apartment units appropriate for this site at a price point for which they could rent these apartments in this market? Was that identified to you? After the meeting, I asked Mr. D'Annunzio what the rental pricing would be for the apartments, as I did almost a year ago. He could not or would not give me an answer. I mentioned in the prior meeting the 3 I's: inflation, interest rates, and insurance. Inflation is now 1/2 of what it was last summer. Interest rates were going up over the last 18 months, but as expected. The only thing that was in question was what was the total amount of interest that would occur. And as we saw from a few weeks ago, with the last 25 basis points increase, there was a signal that this may be the end. This leaves only insurance as the real unknown occurring in the last 18 months. So to make their claim for Project Change credible, how were these 3 I's factored into Gotham's financial model over the last 18 months? Or were they? Maybe it is time for a paradigm shift. The council set out the project as land valued at condominium build-out, but with apartments. Gotham proposed 600 units, which was above the competition. The reduced project looks at those parameters, but with 400 apartments at or below the competition. A paradigm shift could suggest, for instance, a second tower, but of 100 to 200 condominiums, which would be lucrative for Gotham and for Clearwater. It's consistent with the land valuation while meeting the maximum number of total units to be built, and may help the demand requirement that Gotham sees for the apartments, the number of apartments, at the price point they are saying is needed for this project. And I would mention that Water's Edge, which is 153 units, is 65% full-time residents. Keep in mind, other big contracts are coming up, and we'll be looking at this negotiation to see how potentially they can position you. And don't forget how the maneuvering was done by the Sound. One negotiation sets the base for the next negotiation. Is that what is really happening with Gotham to maximize their profits, lower their risk at your expense? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on items not on the agenda? Okay, let's move on. Next is the consent agenda. Are there any items to be pulled off the consent this evening? If not, do we have a motion?
Move to approve items 7.1 through 7.10.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. City manager reports, item number 8.
Approve the joint participation agreement between the City of Clearwater and the State of Florida Department of Transportation to replace the golf cart with a new golf cart at the Clearwater Air Park, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same and adopt Resolution 23-06.
Any questions or comments on this item? Anyone want to speak to this item? We have a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 8.
Excuse me, resolution title.
I'm sorry. I need to read that?
I'll
No.
I'll
Okay.
take care of it. Resolution number 23-06, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, authorizing the execution of a joint participation agreement between the City of Clearwater and the State of Florida Department of Transportation for a grant to replace existing golf cart with a new golf cart at the Clearwater Air Park, providing an effective date.
Okay. Now do we have a motion?
Yes, motion to approve agenda item 8.1.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. 8.2, please.
Approve the joint participation agreement between the City of Clearwater and the State of Florida Department of Transportation, design of terminal and FBO building at the Clearwater Air Park. Authorize the appropriate officials to execute same and adopt Resolution 23-07.
Any questions or comments on this item? Anyone to speak on this item?
Resolution number 23-07, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, authorizing the execution of a joint participation agreement between the City of Clearwater and the State of Florida Department of Transportation for a grant to design new terminal and FBO building at the Clearwater Air Park, providing an effective date.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve agenda item 8.2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. 8.3, please.
Approve the joint participation agreement between the City of Clearwater and the State of Florida Department of Transportation, re-mill and overlay of asphalt on portions of the apron at the Clearwater Air Park, authorize the appropriate officials to execute same, and adopt Resolution 23-08.
Any questions or comments on this item? Anyone from the public to speak to this item?
Resolution number 23-08, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, authorizing the execution of a joint participation agreement between the City of Clearwater and the State of Florida Department of Transportation for a grant to re-mill and overlay the asphalt on portions of the apron at the Clearwater Air Park, providing an effective date.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 8.3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Poirier? City Attorney reports?
Only just to say, Mayor, briefly, that with legislative season having just ended, every year there's changes, right, that cities and local governments see. But this year, some of the changes are particularly significant. And so I know we've started discussing some of those through one-on-one discussions, and we'll continue having those conversations. But some of the changes that we saw come out of this session, I think could affect some of the ways that we process ordinances. They could affect some of the decisions that are made in terms of budgeting projects, and I would say more significant impacts perhaps than what we've seen in some years past. I think there's a lot of good things that came out of this session, particularly some funding for affordable housing, but there's also some things that will cause us, I think, to rethink some strategic approaches to issues. So just wanted to give council a heads up. More than happy to answer questions and talk about that in the weeks ahead.
Okay.
I think, in looking at that, David, in our conversations today, maybe we could set up a work session agenda item where directors from particular departments that are particularly affected by that legislation could come and do a brief presentation to us about how it might affect our decision-making or the city. Somebody from planning, maybe economic development and housing, maybe the legal department,
Sure. I would certainly defer to the manager as to what departments, she thinks would be best, because a lot of the legislation that we see tends to cross departments. Live Local Act is a great example of that, where, planning definitely is affected, economic development is affected, CRA is affected, finance is affected, and legal, make sure all of it stays together.
Right.
So yeah, I think really up to the council as to how you'd like to receive information. Certainly the manager and I can put together presentations for council to kind of do overviews. My suggestion might be if the manager and I, in consultation with the clerk, think about a few of the more impactful changes that came about the last session and maybe present those.
I just think it's a good opportunity for the residents to hear, as well, rather than one-on-ones are fantastic, but to have a reference and a handout that people can refer to, I think would be good. Certainly not everything, but the big ones.
Is that something that the council would be interested in us doing? I'm happy to do so.
What's your thought?
Were you thinking of each department or a general presentation that covers all of it? How can we do it so it's simplified and not impact the staff so much? I defer to you.
Well, exactly what the city attorney suggested. He and I can get together and come up with something to where it would be collaborative and have, one joint presentation to where they could, participate in it for sure. But yes, that does take staff time to prepare that. So
yes.
We're happy to do so if that's something the council wants us to do.
And the new legislation takes effect July 1st, so it's not like, it's going to hit the ground.
Yeah,
And our developments that are in the pipeline, but contracts aren't signed, very well might be affected.
Yeah, depending on the project, it definitely can be affected by some of this, good and bad.
put your heads together and come up with something that makes sense. And is informative, but doesn't take 24 hours.
Understood.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, let's start left to right tonight with the council comments.
I've got a couple of things I wanted to bring up, and excuse my voice, I'm trying to battle a cold here, but I'll see if I can make it through. We've all had lately lots of emails by concerned citizens on Sankey regarding the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers not wanting to fund the beach renourishment project. Sankey, even though Clearwater calls Sankey part of theirs, we own a portion of Sankey. Sankey is actually the island that goes all the way from the bridge of, that goes to Clearwater Beach all the way down to Madeira to Johns Pass. So it affects a lot of municipalities down south of Clearwater. But specifically, we've had letters from a lot of the condominium owners saying our beach is going away, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has they've decided that this is something because of the global change in weather, that this is an ongoing project now. It's every year it affects, not every 5-10 years. And so they've said that pretty much that, we need to find money elsewhere, I think. We've gone to Washington trying to maybe move the needle a little bit. But what I wanted to bring to council tonight was, and I think Clearwater, I think all the property owners that are on Sankey in the Clearwater portion have signed waivers so the Army Corps can use their properties, because we mostly have condominiums there. South of that, you have the private homeowners, and I think a lot of them are saying, no, we're not going to give any kind of waiver. Would it be helpful if, we really can't do much to move the needle, but if we make a resolution saying, please help us, our beaches are very important to us here in Pinellas County, in Clearwater, I would say. Do you think a resolution would help, something we could send to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers saying this is very important to us, please loosen this up and help us? I'm throwing it out there to everybody to comment on.
I think more effective would be calling Senator Scott, Senator Rubio, and our representatives. Not that a resolution, but a lot of people read resolutions and throw them in the trash can.
I understand that.
Yeah, you know that. You've been around a long
at least
time. But I will tell you this, too, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but at the TDC, we had our annual budgeting meeting, which took about 6 hours the other day, and that was a key topic. So there's $10 million budgeted from the TDC, plus there's a reserve of about $32 million for beach renourishment. So it's going to be a key topic, according to Janet Long, who's the chair of the county commission, and also, of course, the TDC. And she said actually that the funding percentages for the 60-40 may change, which I think may change for the better, so the more funds goes into things like that and other projects that are coming before them. Now, is that the end-all be-all? I don't know. Somebody told me that the cost is about $10 million that they need a year. It seems low, but I'm not an expert on that. But I think we can do something. If you want to do a resolution, we can, but I think we also need to speak to our senators and our representatives, especially if the people on our side of Sankey have already cooperated with the Army Corps of Engineers. They can't hold that part against us if the rest of the people don't. I don't know why they couldn't do it sequentially and do certain parts of it until, I don't know, and then the county can pick up the rest. So something, again, I'm not an expert, I'm just getting up to speed on, but I just wanted to share with you what that discussion was. So.
Well, it's good to know that the county understands there's an issue, and they have to put some TDC money into it.
If we're getting letters, they're getting probably multiple times the ones we are, but it's a concern, rightfully so. So thank you.
Okay, well, I just want to tell the public, our constituents in Clearwater Beach, that we are concerned about that, and we are helping as best we can in that. So number two, I wanted to bring up this Drew Street thing. I know that the FDOT has we've asked them to do another traffic study to go on their 2019, the last one they did, to make sure they take into consideration of all development that's going to happen on the bluff, take into consideration of the sound and people coming down to Coachman Park. And one of the things that it was brought up at a council meeting a while back, I think when Whit Blanton was here from Fort Pinellas, the idea of maybe temporary striping the section from Saturn to Osceola and seeing how the traffic pattern is going to work. I remember that meeting, they said something like, well, we don't have enough time to do that. We should have done it a couple of years ago. I think we have time to do it. So this would be a question to the city manager. Is that something that you think we can do while we're waiting for this traffic study and see how the flow is going to really work?
If I may, do you mind? I plan on putting this on the June 5th agenda for discussion and the June 8th council meeting.
Perfect, okay.
And I have done a serious amount of homework. I mean, a serious amount. I've talked to the mayor of Gainesville. I've talked to Orlando. I'm talking to Lakeland. I've talked to St. Petersburg. Conveniently, somehow, St. Petersburg, 9th Street and MLK was left off the comparisons, and it's the closest one. And I'm going down there next Friday to sit with their traffic, the main traffic guy, to sit in the diner for lunch and watch the congestion, and I'm going to ride the street with him. And I've got a lot of information I want to bring forward so everybody can see it. But to me, it's not too late, because look what happened. Things got held up. So if we would have passed it that night, it probably wouldn't have got held up. But that, again, that's a discussion for a work session, so we can get into it thoroughly and look at it. So.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
Mr. Sheriff?
Okay, so before I go into my whole thing, let me pick up on this discussion. I think striping is a good idea because it's going to take care of one side's concern and validate the other, whatever it is. And I also feel that it's a great opportunity to iron out the kinks. So when looking back at some of the other endeavors throughout the state where they actually did do the striping, they always found areas for improvement where it was hard to predict unless it was actually a real situation. So I would agree to that. I think it's there's really no valid reason not to go for it because I don't think it's going to delay the project going forward. So back to my normal thing that I was going to talk about. So I apologize for missing some of the events lately. I flew out to go up north. My son graduated from college. It was by far the best Mother's Day I've had in many years. I had both my children with me, and my youngest graduated, so I'm hoping he's off my payroll pretty soon. But during the commencement, a young lady addressed the student body, and she was so charismatic, and it wasn't the typical rah-rah speech, you know, here I am, I'm gonna, conquer the world, I'm a woman, hear me roar. It wasn't any of those types of speeches. It was just her experience as one of the students of the only graduating class that experienced pre-COVID, during COVID, and after. And how that experience was in a small campus with diverse students trying to navigate through that process, from being excited being in that campus atmosphere to being isolated in a bubble away from family and being surrounded by other students going through the same thing from all over the world to then recovering. She was very eloquent, and she was talking about how it was difficult at first to join each other to navigate together as a whole because of the diversity of students and the experience and all that. But she said they all conquered it because at the end of the day they had one thing in common, which was to navigate successfully through that experience and how they joined forces. And I couldn't help but make that connection to us. We are small, but we are diverse. And I think that we can learn from her words, but keeping the end game, our major focus and working together despite our diverse perspectives. And I thought she was a very smart lady, smart young woman, and I took her words to heart.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I want to say thank you to Clearwater Fire and Rescue this past Saturday. They held the annual Fire 101 program along with other regional fire departments, which gave us a chance to go out there and experience what it's like to be a firefighter. And, it's one thing going in knowing, the uniforms are hot and heavy, and the equipment is even more heavy. And I understand that you can go into a building when there's a fire and you really can't see anything. It's one thing to know that, and it's another to experience it. I tell you, it was eye-opening, and my hat's off to them. It was very educational. A lot of folks came out for that, and it's great to see that happening. And today, many of us were at the Arts for Life Academy, where they were doing a celebration of the complete remodeling of their center. And it's a remarkable place. They use Jay Hinson is the woman who's the force behind this. And they use the arts to not just educate kids, but to help shape them for their futures, and whether they want to go into theater or film or TV, or if they just want to learn how to work together and be successful. And I got to tell you, as a theater kid myself, it really gave me a sense of community, and it did a wonderful job of helping to shape me. So I got to applaud them, and the Buccaneers were a major factor in getting this done as well, along with Clearwater. So congratulations to them, and great success moving forward.
Good stuff. Yes, ma'am.
I had brief comments. I just wanted to remind people to check their voter registration. Go to votepinellas.com. Make sure you're signed up to vote by mail if you are not already. And also to say congratulations to Clearwater's graduating class. I was fortunate to attend and speak briefly at their graduation ceremony Monday night, and that was memorable as well. And congratulations to Arts for Life, and thank you to Jay Bill as well as the Bucks for helping to make that happen in the city. I'm a little troubled by some of the comments on our closing comments about Drew Street, and I would maybe turn to our city attorney, because we have a process. If you're going to talk about striping or temporary striping, we've discussed that. We had a full meeting, we had it on the agenda, we had people show up and speak, we had our experts, we had Whit Blanton, we had FDOT here, and we took a vote, and the vote was we're going to sign on to that letter of support, and then it was decided with the budget language that there's going to be another short study. So let's wait for that. I don't think we need to jump the gun and think that we need to go out and stripe and do something different when we've already visited that. And I think, I feel like it's a little bit of a circumventing of what we've discussed publicly here, taken a vote, and we have a process that we need to honor. So I'd like Mr. Margolis's thoughts on interrupting us waiting for that additional shorter study.
Well, glad to not get into a controversial topic. So, a couple of things on this. I want to distinguish, council's authority to, reconsider, revisit topics from our internal operating procedures as a city. This body always has the right, the power, and some would say the responsibility to reconsider issues if new facts come to mind, new evidence comes to mind, etc. So there's nothing in Florida law or in our city charter that would prohibit this council from considering new points of view, new evidence, new ideas, even though it was voted on at an earlier point in time. However, we do have an operating rule here at the council, which generally does say, Clearwater, that if a council member does want to bring up a topic for substantive discussion, whether it was something that was previously voted on or not, the traditional protocol for that, at least in Clearwater, would be to bring it up at a work session and then say, let's go ahead and add that to the next work session discussion. Now, the advantage to that, and I think the reason that rule is in place, which long predated my time with the city, is to give every council member the opportunity just to think about it and to say whether it's something you agree with, disagree with, do additional research, et cetera. So I certainly would suggest, to all 5 of you, that I think the best practice is to bring things up at the work session and then add it to the next work session agenda. Again, that's the general rubric that our rules contemplate.
You mean the next council agenda, not the work session and then the next council agenda?
Actually, our rules do say for the next work session agenda.
Okay.
That's currently the way our rules are written. I think it's designed to prevent, things like an ambush or to give people time to just think about things. In this particular case, though, with True Street, I know from talking with all 5 of you how much time all 5 of you have invested in this topic. All 5 of you care very much about the city, and this particular topic has generated some pretty strong feelings, we know, both on the dais as well as out in the community. And so for this particular topic, because it's one that the council, I think, is so familiar with and has spent so much time with already, I could see the argument for saying that we may not really have to wait 2 weeks to actually continue talking about it. So all of that is to say that it's really up to the council as a body to decide how much lead time you need when it comes to topics. The default rule is to bring it up at a work session for the next work session. But if council as a body is comfortable discussing it either right here and now or discussing it at a short term at a meeting in the near future, that's okay too. I don't think the council should feel constrained in what you discuss or when you discuss it, but the rule is designed to make sure everyone has a fair opportunity just to think about issues. So that's really all it is.
Okay, so I was because I talked to the city manager, who talked to the clerk, who said that it was my prerogative to put it on for the next work session, and then we can put it on the council meeting.
Yes, you can. During your one-on-ones with the city manager, you may request a council discussion item to be placed for the next work session. Okay. And so I was given that directive, or I was given that information when I came back from my conference, and an item will be on for the next agenda under your name as a discussion item.
Okay. All right. Anything else? No. Okay. So just to follow, because we talked about it, follow up, I watched that April 4th meeting probably 11 times now, and I can probably quote almost everything that was said the entire evening. What was said after my letter was refused to be read into the record is that's a discussion that could come up at another time, and to me, the time is now because of what happened with the funding being held up. And there's, in my opinion, why do another study if you're not going to have the road in the configuration it's going to be in? If you can stripe it and do a study at the same time, you're going to know exactly what you're going to get. And this person is not trying to stop something. He's trying to make sure it's done correctly so we have the correct numbers. We were told in a meeting that they did not include the sound or the Gotham project. They said that, well, we don't widen roads just for venues because then you'd have super roads. Great, but you also don't narrow them either without taking that into consideration. That was not explained to me. There was something said by our experts about what Orlando didn't do, and in fact, they did do it. And I verified that they did do a road diet. And Gus Castro, their 30-plus year guy who knows Wood Blanton, said, we did a road diet, we studied it, we had a 36-page PowerPoint, we learned from it, and then we implemented the full-time program after that. And he strongly recommended that we do the same thing. And so has everyone I've talked to, including the mayor of Gainesville. So that's why I want to bring it up and talk about it. Now's not the appropriate time because I have a lot of background information to provide to the council and the citizens so everyone can hear it and make a decision. I was not able to make a decision. My email was not allowed to be read into the record because I was an ordinary citizen, I was told. My question would be, when's the last time in the history of the city of Clearwater that an ordinary citizen wrote a letter or an email and it wasn't allowed that was going to be sworn in the next day as the mayor of Clearwater? So that bothered me a little bit, but that's okay. I'm over it. I'm a big boy. But now I want to talk about it. I have a right to do that, and I want to do it. So, all right, great meeting. Great job with the firefighters. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the Habitat for Humanity I went out to. We'll see you all next time.